Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Listening to Fox News.
Our top story, Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe shot Friday morning and is listed in grave condition. The suspected gunman reportedly told police he wanted to kill Abe. Texas Governor Abbott authorizes state law enforcement to take detained illegal immigrants back to border crossings.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued an executive order which authorizes Texas state troopers and the Texas National Guard to apprehend illegal immigrants and return them to ports of entry on the U.S. side of the border. Now, the way it typically is worked is when Texas state troopers encounter illegal immigrants, they take them into custody and then they call Border Patrol and hand them off to the federal government. What Governor Abbott is doing with this executive order is he's invoking Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, which essentially guarantees states federal protection from an invasion. Now, Governor Abbott is not declaring an invasion with this order. What he is doing is he's giving the green light to Texas law enforcement to apprehend and drop off illegal immigrants at U.S. ports of entry.
Fox's Bill Maluzhan. New York City becomes the hotspot for monkeypox. Vaccines are running out as quickly as they become available. Oscar-nominated actor James Caan has died at 82.
The Bronx-born actor was best known for playing Sonny Corleone in The Godfather.
Huh? What do you think, this is the army where you shoot them a mile away? You gotta get them close like this. Bada bing, you blow their brains all over your nice Ivy League suit. Come here. Mwah! You're taking this very personal. Tom, this is business, and this man is taking it very, very personal.
James Caan had a long career, starring in Brian's Song, Misery, Elf, and more. He was nominated for several awards, including 4 Golden Globes, an Emmy, and an Oscar.
Fox's Monica DeLuca. And stocks closed higher. The Dow rose 346 points. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all 3.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Here we are on the worst day of the week for Jose and I, Friday. We dread the onset of this day because it means we got to go 70 70 hours with no tall tales, no tailgaters, no seventh inning stretch, no big halftime show. It's quite a deprivation, Somehow we managed to get through it. We'll be back Monday afternoon at 1600, but let's make the very best of the 2 hours we have this afternoon. Let's start out with Zemi Ikotny. And here's what the Daily News is saying today. Our View mobile crisis team is long overdue on Guam. Guam is rolling out a mobile crisis response pilot program designed to help emergency responders deal with situations involving mental health issues. This is a good development for our community, and as Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center Director Teresa Areola said, is long overdue. Areola said crisis response teams have been a topic of discussion since the 1960s. On Guam, Behavioral Health is working with Guam police and fire departments to get the project started. Behavioral health specialists will work with emergency responders to handle crises involving mental health, suicide, depression, homelessness, and substance abuse. Similar teams have been used in cities and counties throughout the United States to de-escalate situations where first responders, such as police and firefighters, are confronted with people suffering from mental illness or impairment. In California, according to the website for that state's Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, the teams help reduce injuries to officers and mental health counselors, as were consumers, during contacts, and to appropriately redirect mental health consumers from the judicial system to the services and support needed to stabilize consumers and reduce contact with police. These teams of trained mental health professionals can help save lives. The National Alliance on Mental Illness. Oh, that's a crazy title for an organization, isn't it, Jose? Yeah.
That deserved a honk.
Supports the expansion of mental health crisis response teams in every community. When someone experiences a mental health crisis, they are often more likely to interact with a law enforcement officer than a medical professional, according to the organization's website. The absence of a truly comprehensive community mental health system means that law enforcement are often the first responders to mental health crises. Mental health crises. I added one extra syllable there. When law enforcement responds, people in crisis too often end up in jails, emergency departments on the street, or worse, they are harmed or killed during the encounter. The first phase of Guam's program started in June and has limited hours and services. The team operates from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Friday, and from noon to 10 Saturday and Sunday. In the initial phase, the team will only respond to calls from active behavioral health clients who are at least 18 years old. In September, services will expand to include adults who are not behavioral health clients. Calls to fire dispatch relating to mental health issues due to no public safety or medical concerns will be sent to the Crisis Hotline Center, and the mobile crisis response team can be activated if necessary. Behavioral Health's goal is to build its workforce, expand the program, and offer a full scope of services by the end of the year. That includes additional teams who can work with children and provide coverage around the clock. The team will provide needed services to our island, and it will very likely save lives, prevent injuries, and divert people with mental health problems from the criminal justice system. Well, first of all, content. This all sounds good to me. It sounds a whole lot better than what we're getting from the United States mainland. Abolish the police. We've got to have more services like this.
Well, there's a reason why abolish the police hasn't hit Guam. Because everybody's family is working with the police.
That's very true.
So they're not going to say that.
Yeah.
But they're thinking it.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, you hear it.
You hear it, huh?
You hear it. It's on social media. It's all over. The underlying responses about police here on Guam. And I'm not, and this is not to say that this might not be a great idea, but why do we always have to take every single thing that happens in the States and regurgitate it here if there's no issue of it here? And I'm not sure if I've seen success rates with this yet, but it sounds good.
Yeah, those are good points, Jose. I can't stop thinking about the lady who drowned her baby and then was up at Two Lovers Point with her dead baby, gesturing that she was going to jump.
And that's one of those exceptional cases that we hear about. But again, the narrative from these types of instances has been based around the defund the police, and then why do police have to shoot, especially minorities, all the time? Well, we know that's not true. If you saw the editorial cartoon today, it's a huge piece of disinformation. And it's a gross propaganda.
Remind me, I saw it, but I don't.
It's a picture of a stark, empty jail cell, and they're bringing in a character that looks like the shooter from July 4th, Highland Park, and the cop is saying, "Put the white mass shooter in the same cell where we put all the unarmed black men we took alive." Total void of any kind of statistics because that's untrue.
Of course.
And it's all propaganda narrative.
Yeah.
And shame on the PDN for even printing this.
You're absolutely right. And, I get a kick out of how if there is a shooting and a white officer shoots a black person, the story starts out with the word another, as it's all part of the same scheme. Another cop shot a black man today. Yeah.
The egregious part about the shootings are the statistics, and the truth is never reported.
Never is, yeah. And oftentimes, if you know the whole story, you understand why the cop shot the person. Well, okay. Well, maybe your view is a little bit clearer than mine on this. When I first read it, I thought, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe it's just copycatting and laying a foundation for defund the police. We'll just have to give it some time and see where it goes. All right, let's take a look at the card. Of course, I've got Paul Zerzan and systemic racism. And I start out with Underwood versus Bree. Michael San Nicolas and
is that a man attacking a woman?
It is. Oh, yeah.
Shame.
How could he possibly get away with that? Why would they print misinformation like that? Where is our responsible media here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I'm still not finished with Calamity Jane versus the Bois. Nor am I finished with Time versus Leven. Then I've got the Chief versus the Mayors, Angel Sablon versus the Bus, Clint versus Gas, Progressive versus Democracy, etc. Some of the stuff that's been on the card for a while. I don't know if I have to repeat it on a Friday here, but Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. You see that bowl of rice there? It's actually orange. But if you say that it's orange, you may very well get canceled because the narrative says it's red. And I use this as a very good analogy to show how the narrative controls factual and truth determinations so often in the 21st century that we live in. Okay, let's go to Underwood versus Bree. Sabrina Salas Montanani. Underwood. I can't think of a more awkward campaign team than San Nicolas Montanani. Let me see if I could come up with one. How about Underwood and anybody else? Would that be just as awkward?
Yeah, sometimes they don't see the reflection right in front of them.
Really. So here's what Robert Underwood says. Now, this is on the card as an extension of Rosa Parks versus Underwood and Underwood versus 4th of July. Now, you recall in Underwood versus the 4th of July, I introduced the new word oikophobia. An oikophobe is someone who hates his country. And after reading Robert Underwood's reflections on the 4th of July, I have determined that Robert Underwood is an oikophobia. He hates his country. And he has to keep talking about Guam being a colony and that something should be done, etc., when he's one of the handful of people on this island who ever was in a position to actually take action to do something about the colonial status of our island. He was a voting, as you were, he was a sitting member of the United States House of Representatives with the ability to introduce bills into that august body. He could have introduced any one of 3 bills or all 3 of them. 1, a bill enabling an act for Guam to become a state. 2, a legislation that would make Guam an independent country. 3, legislation to amend the U.S. Constitution to deal with the status of 4 of the islands, 4 of the island territories. You want to try to remember which one he did? He didn't do nothing. But he keeps bitching about it and complaining. And the United States has got a colonies problem. They don't realize they don't admit they got colonies. And here we are, a colony after all these years, and we don't have any voice, etc. When he had the voice for 10 years. And was it too hot, too confrontational for you, Robert? Too hot an issue? Might have cost you votes? Might have cost your relatively high House of Representatives salary and your government pension from the colonizer? Well, here's what he says. In the 1992 presidential election, independent candidate Ross Perot generated a lot of excitement. He seemed like a fresh voice. Unfortunately for him, he had a reluctant running mate named Admiral James Stockdale. Stockdale earned a Medal of Honor in Vietnam for surviving 7 years in a prison camp. In the vice presidential debate, he began his introduction by asking, "Who am I? Why am I here?" Now, is this a misprint? Are they talking about Joe Biden?
Maybe Joe Biden is channeling his inner Stockton.
Yeah, who am I? Why am I here? Well, you're the president, Mr. President Biden. Oh, yeah. It's not Barack Obama anymore, is it? Yeah, let's just have a short reminder here where we are on that particular issue. Yeah. Let's go, Brandon. Anyhow, that's what James Stockdale said. Perhaps, Biden was a great plagiarizer. He plagiarized a guy named Kinnock, who was a British politician. He got caught plagiarizing, I think, about 3 times. So maybe he just plagiarized James Stockdale when Stockdale said, "Who am I? Why am I here?" Going on, the debate performance was awful. And unfortunately, most people do not remember his distinguished military record. His performance helped sink Perot. Commentators like Dennis Miller, remember, whatever happened to Dennis Miller?
I don't know, but he was the king of obscure reference humor.
Really?
Very good guy.
Yeah, very good. And he's the reason that I joined the Dollar Shave Club.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He had such and I tried it, and I really like it. Thank you, Dennis Miller.
Doesn't work on mustaches, though.
Well, I don't shave my mustache, so there you go.
Okay, it's a choice.
Yeah. All right, so commentators like Dennis Miller defended Stockdale by saying he committed the worst sin in politics. He wasn't good on television. That's probably true. In recent Guam memory, I can't think of a more awkward campaign team than San Nicolas Matanani. How about Underwood? Oh, no. Robert, you ran for governor twice and you lost. Yeah. And Robert, you ran for the House of Rep for Washington delegate last time, and you lost. So you've done something that Michael San Nicolas has never done. You've lost a Guam election. In fact, you've lost 3 Guam elections. I guess that puts you in what we used to refer to as the catbird seat. You know that expression, Jose?
I do not.
Your assignment over the halftime is to find out what it means to be sitting in the catbird seat.
Will do.
Yeah. That was, who was it? Thurber. That was, I think, a Thurberism, if my memory, or one of the elements in one of his stories, if I remember correctly. But I'll wait. Much has been given to Delegate San Nicolas' spotty congressional achievements and the fact that he has been referred to the Department of Justice by a unanimous bipartisan committee in Congress. He likes to tout that he works on a bipartisan basis. He has earned bipartisan condemnation. But that isn't what makes the team awkward. It's the running mate's reluctance to appear in public and performance to date. Sabrina Salas Montanani had a solid reputation as a television journalist and news director. Historical footnote, Jose, back in the old days when we had cable TV on the island, it ran a real news program and had real investigative reporters like our old friend, guy who used to do the news for us here in the morning.
Tip of my tongue.
Yeah, him and a couple of other really good investigative reporters. And Sabrina was a newscaster, and I had a show on Sunday nights called Sunday Forum. And Sabrina, and they used to do news on Sundays back in those days. 7 days a week they did the news. So Sabrina would kick off the news show, and she'd say, and also tonight, we've got Bob on Sunday Forum. What do you got going on tonight, Bob? And there would be what you call in the trade a toss. And I would be on the screen, and I would tell Bree what I was going to talk about on my show that night. Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin. Yeah, and I would tell Bree what was on the show, and we did that every Sunday night. So a little historical footnote for you cable forum buffs out there in the international radio listening audience. Yeah, Sabrina Salas had a solid reputation as a television journalist and news director. People held her in high regard. It wasn't like earning the Medal of Honor as Stockdale did, but she was well liked. Unlike most political candidates, she is good on television. Once she entered politics, the reputation was put to the test. People had heard her news reports about San Nicolas' alleged misdeeds. She was now going to be his main cheerleader, which is the primary role of a running mate. She initially dismissed the concern over ethics charges. Incredibly, once the report was issued, she said that the investigation is now over. In reality, the action is just now beginning. The action meaning the criticism from Robert Underwood. The main cheerleader was absent when the papers were filed for their candidacy. She was also absent when San Nicolas appeared in his news conference flanked by 2 attorneys. Whoa, man.
How dare you?
She also has displayed a remarkable lack of knowledge about key issues, including health care. She didn't look good on television. Gubernatorial teams are usually a political deal in which the running mate is vetted for suitability. Sometimes they worked out well for the junior partner. Lieutenant Governor Joe Adda eventually became governor after Paul Calvo dumped him when he ran for re-election. You forgot about that part, Robert. Joe Adda's failed attempt in 1998 to become governor did give his running mate a boost. Felix Camacho went on to be governor twice. He's now making a 3rd run. But running mates have also come up short when they tried to become governor. Frank Uggan and Ray Tenorio are 2 examples. They were also probably the hardest working handshakers in the past 30 years of Guam politics. They were great candidates, great retail candidates, that's for sure. Yeah, the old saying was that, when it's time for you to meet your maker, Frank Uggan will be the last one to let you down. Or if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, it would be Ray Tenorio. I have not heard anyone say that Sabrina is a great candidate. Her public appearances are few and far between. She's appeared on the side of the road with San Nicolas and a couple of unicorns. Sometimes she is just by herself and a single unicorn. There is a scheduled debate on July 20 between Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Sabrina. In the run-up, there may be efforts to cancel the debate or characterize Joshua as a political bully.
What? Really?
Well, let me see. What would a political bully be? Well, let's see. If they're the same sex, you don't count that. But if one is a man, a mature man, and the other one's a woman, then you kind of start out as the man the bully.
Oh, that's what they're going to say, according to this.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how this works. Now, the bully would be a man, and he would say all kinds of critical and unkind things about the female, right?
That's default.
That would be a definition of a bully? Oh, and Robert thinks that Josh Tenorio might be a bully. Isn't that ironic?
It's extremely ironic.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to some of the playground taunts that we used to sling around. Yeah, well, it takes one to know one, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, in the run-up, there may be efforts to cancel a debate or characterize Joshua as a political bully. I recommend that Sabrina enter herself clearly and not repeat the claim that she is sacrificing herself. She also shouldn't copy Stockdale and ask, why am I here? Yeah, well...
Take it from me, a 5-time win... No. A 3-time governor's winner... No.
No.
2 times? Has he ever won?
No. Yeah, take it from me, a 3-time loser. I can tell you how to go about it. I ran against your running mate last time. And I didn't only lose, he beat the tar out of me.
Well, that's the other takeaway from this. This strategy did not work when he ran against Michael St. Nicholas. Why is he repeating the same strategy?
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, you can't deal with this kind of stuff without wondering how many trips a day Robert makes to Payless to the produce department to buy another bag of sour grapes. Right?
He spent an awful lot of gas money driving past the Sabrina unicorn waves.
Yeah. All right, so much for Robert Underwood. Okay, next we go back to Calamity Jane. And, up until now, the Bureau of Women's Affairs. You want to take a break, Jose? Yeah, let's take a short break.
Get ready to save up and chow down with Pacific Points. Now you can redeem Pacific Points for UnoGo wallet credits and enjoy huge savings on food delivery. Order from over 80 restaurants and have it delivered straight to your door. Continue earning points when you fuel up at Shell, shop at Foodies, purchase ITNE prepaid load, and pay your monthly ITNE bill. Then get ready to claim your rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
We're already Pika's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better.
Announcing the point on Alexa.
In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spittin' truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
Okay, Jose, my daughter saved me. Kevin Kerrigan. Yeah.
There you go.
How could I forget Kevin? I knew the guy really well when he was at cable, and of course, I sat across him when I did Ray's show here, and I always thought he was a really, really good investigative reporter. I wonder, he just all of a sudden disappeared.
I think he went back to Pacific News Center for a little bit, and then I don't know what happened after that. From here.
From here, huh?
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Well, I had a chance to peek at Facebook. And Robert Underwood is really covering himself with glory here.
He has a fan base.
He does have a fan base. Let's see what his fans are saying about him. Underwood is washed up and should stop embarrassing himself. True, all he does is embarrass himself. Underwood honestly has no business dispensing advice on gubernatorial elections. He lost every time he ran. Why would anyone listen to Underwood's advice? He lost for governor 140 times. Sabrina Salas is a great candidate. She waves alone because the congressman is off island. MSN is doing his job. So is Bree. If I wanted advice on how to run for governor, I'd ask Eddie Calvo. He won by the biggest landslide in Guam history.
Wasn't that against Underwood?
I think so, yeah.
His first round.
Yeah. I'd ask Joe Ada and Carl Gutierrez for advice. Felix Camacho, too. They all won 2 terms. Camacho beat Underwood. Yeah, Camacho beat Underwood both times. Yeah, so... I think perhaps if I had anything, if I were a Bree and MSN supporter and I were in communication with Underwood, I'd say, hey, Robert, you know that column you wrote when you really came down hard on Bree? Can you keep it up? It looks like he's doing her a gigantic favor. I wonder what kind of bumper stickers he has on the back of his car.
You remember the Uncle Remus stories? The
Briar
Rabbit,
Patch.
the Tar Baby. Yep.
Yeah, and the Briar Patch. Please don't throw Bree in the Briar Patch again, Robert. Yeah.
Whatever you do.
Yeah. Okay, so much for Robert Underwood. Now we go back to Calamity Jane. And I just can't get over, what she has done. And as I started to say before we took the break, up until now, being the director of the Bureau of Women's Affairs has been such an obscure position that no one ever knew who it was. And frankly, it was a good place to put a loyal female supporter, or the wife of a loyal female supporter. That was a very good place for that. Good surroundings, easy to know work, etc. No one watching you very closely, no one holding you to any kind of a standard or anything like that. So it was really obscure. And then along came Calamity Jane, who has really put the bois on the map. And, of course, I think one of the things that a senator ought to do is introduce legislation to change the name of that bureau, the Bureau of Abortions Affairs, because that's all, or I'd have to say that's about 95% of what Jane has been pursuing since she's been the director. Now, Monday, I'll probably bring in the organic statute that created the bois, and we'll go through it. And maybe you could find it, but I couldn't find anything even vaguely referencing abortion in her statute. But she seems to think her charter is to talk about almost nothing else, to recruit Radu and Kaneshiro to come over here, get admitted to practice medicine here so they could have standing to be the plaintiffs in the ACLU suit about chemical medicine. Organizing that rally, that's the way it looked to me, you know, with the official logo of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, and then copied into every single media person on the island. Here's the Bureau of Women's Affairs rally, guys. And, you know, she's really drawn a lot of attention to herself so that for probably most of her life, well, she was also a reporter at cable news, by the way. Yeah. But probably since she left that for most of her life here on the island, people would, if anyone ever mentioned her name, it would be Jane who? Jane Flores? Haji Flores, ne? Si Jane? But now she's come pretty close to being a household word. And to really cement it, to really nail it down tight, she came up with her religious instruction. Now, one thing that I can tell you for absolute sure, there's nothing in the organic statute for the Bureau of Women's Affairs that tells the director that she should engage in religious instruction. And that's exactly what Jane has done. She's limiting her instruction just to Christians. Muslims need not pay any attention. I suppose we have some Taoists, some Buddhists on the island, etc., right?
There's a couple of Jewish people here.
There's Jews here. There are Hindus here. They needn't pay any attention to Jane because apparently she addresses only Christians. And this is, once again, this is what she says. If you're a Christian who's happy about Roe versus Wade getting overturned, I repeat that sentence. If you're a Christian who's happy about Roe versus Wade getting overturned, I'd like to remind you, now this is religious instruction, right? I wonder if she has, I don't think she has her own edifice called a church anywhere. I wonder if she has meetings at her home or in some other gathering place for religious instruction. She goes on to say, if you're a Christian who's happy about Roe versus Wade getting overturned, I'd like to remind you that the purpose of your religion is not to judge or condemn others. Well, she's telling you now, if you're a Christian, this is what you must do to stay within the boundaries of your religion. It's not your job to police or control people. Here's a no-no. Your job, and job is in all caps, your job as a Christian is to evangelize through your actions and way of life. Okay, you have to evangelize now. Now, she doesn't say you got to go out and knock on doors or leave doorknob hangers or anything like that. She says you must evangelize through your actions and way of life. Okay. Now she goes on to caution you, you know. She's a very pastoral kind of approach here. She's cautioning Christians that the joy you're feeling from Roe versus Wade getting overturned isn't because God has worked. It's almost like her own catechism here, isn't it? Yeah. She's catechizing us, right?
The Book of Jane?
The Book of Jane. Yeah. The joy you're feeling from Roe versus Wade getting overturned isn't because God has worked. Now, God works in mysterious ways, but apparently Jane knows chapter and verse of how God works and how God doesn't work. What you're feeling is a perverted sense of satisfaction. Perverted. Not because you saved lives, but because you were able to exert control over other people. This is one of the sins in the Book of Jane, exerting control over other people. Parents with small children, busting out. All right. You're feeling powerful and vindicated because you didn't want someone to do something and acted your will on them, ascribing particular power to Christians. You acted your will on them. Your joy isn't about God. Okay? Christians, it's not about God. It's about making yourself feel just. Okay, now here's the, once again, childhood. Jose, you're going to go to bed. Night, Mom, night, Dad. Okay, Bobby, make sure you say your prayers tonight, right? Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. God bless Mommy and Daddy and Tony, right? Don't forget to say your prayers. But not according to the Book of Jane. Here's what the Book of Jane requires. When you lay down in bed tonight, all alone. Now, if you ordinarily sleep with your spouse, that's contra to the Book of Jane.
You got to be all alone.
You've got to be all alone. When you lay down in bed tonight, all alone and in the dark. Now, some folks like to have a bed, nightlight on. That's forbidden also. And in the dark, listen to your spirit. What you'll feel tonight may be just the devil smiling at the corner of your bed because he knows you like the feeling he gave you today. Yeah, that's a real mouthful. The Book of Jane, religious instruction coming from the director of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, Government of Guam, one of the governor's cabinet members. Now, since this has come out, I know it's really angered a lot of people. But have no fear, the governor came out and took really quick action on this. She disciplined the director of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, said, Jane, stick to your job. It's not your job to do religious instruction. If that's what you want to do, resign and go get a job. Go get a degree in theology or something. But you can't do that from your job. And then the governor would say, I really apologize for what a member of my cabinet has done. That was way, way out of bounds. You know when the governor said that, Jose?
Never.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I noticed I got somebody in the green room. It's probably the governor. No, it's not the guy. It's somebody more important than the governor. It's Troy Torres. Okay, well, let's take a short break, and we'll come back to Troy Torres.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tenactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Yeah, well, end of religious instruction for today's Tall Tales. We all have free will. We have a custom and tradition in our country of free exercise of religion. Our U.S. Constitution and our Organic Act protect free exercise of religion. Far be it for me to tell you how to practice your religion or even what religion you should practice. But then again, I'm not the director of the Bureau of Women's Affairs. But we have a guest who does a lot of good work for us here on the island, Troy Torres, who is the publisher of Candid News. And Troy gets into the stuff that the mainstream media, the four big ones, don't know how to handle, don't want to handle, or are afraid to handle. I'm not sure which, but I don't like any of it. That's why I start my day by going to Candid News, Troy.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you, and hi, Jose. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, Corey.
You know, I'm listening to you talk about Jane Flores and her campaign of infanticide and the Yongaro administration's legacy of, you know, we want to murder babies. And I can't help but think, when all is said and done with my life, you know, I mean, maybe some people will remember me as the guy who did drugs. I would hope that maybe I would be remembered for loving animals. You know, I don't care much for people most of the time, but
I can understand that.
Yeah, maybe I'll be remembered for loving animals or for being a good friend. But to have a legacy, and I don't know if the people at Adelup ever stopped to think about this, of promoting the murder of the most vulnerable people on Earth, having a legacy of promoting infanticide. I mean, do they ever stop and think, geez, you know, maybe this is not what we want to be known for when all is said and done with the end of our lives or with the end of our term or whatever the case may be. It was just a thought to throw out there.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And, you know, Lou is absolutely all in for abortion. And after the big halftime show, it's Friday, so we're going to play the video of Lou's testimony where she actually comes out in public at a public hearing and advocates infanticide.
This was the partial birth abortion ban bill, right, where she testified against it?
We had a bill that said that a child who survives a botched abortion, she said, let him die. Don't
babies who survive despite an abortion attempt.
Yeah.
A baby who's actually born on the operating table breathing. She testified against giving them care.
But she had a really good reason for doing that, Troy. She did a cost-benefit analysis, and the bottom line was let the poor baby die.
You know, I don't know if it's okay for me to explain the graphic nature of a third trimester partial birth abortion. It's a little graphic, but I mean,
it's
people
not
know.
Not only okay, Troy, it's probably going to be required if you can do it.
Well, thank you. It's, you know, the last I knew of how a partial birth abortion works is the doctor induces the labor so that the baby's head crowns from the cervix and then stabs the head with shears, opens the shears up, then vacuums the brains of the baby out, and then the rest of the baby is expelled. And it's a dead birth, because if the baby is fully removed from the cervix, then it's a live birth, and according to the law at the time, that's when the baby's right to life was protected. The difference between inches from the cervix is just such a sad thing, and for the governor to promote something, the governor of Guam, an island that for centuries has been a good island, a place where life is respected. To have a governor of Guam to advocate something like that, and a director of women's affairs to crusade for infanticide and for procedures like that, it's disgusting.
That's an interesting way to use the word crusade, Troy.
Yeah. Culture of death. That's what this administration is trying to bring to this island.
And just making no bones about it. And then her tirade here on Facebook. I mean, I don't see how anyone who is aware of what she has done would have anything but disrespect for her, if that makes any difference to her.
No. I don't know. I don't know that these things affect them. I mean, if you're able to parade the murder of innocent babies, then maybe there aren't that many things that she'd be sensitive to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that lack of sensitivity is broader than just a lack of sensitivity to helpless, innocent human beings.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, Troy, you probably boosted my ratings by 10 or 15% here just by calling in today. Folks are going to watch on Monday, are going to listen on Monday, because they'll be thinking, "Gosh, maybe Troy will call in. I better call."
No, I'm the one who's honored to be a guest on your show, so thank you so much. And have a blessed and safe weekend, Bob.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Always a good talk to you, Troy. So, Troy Torres, the publisher of Candid News.
I don't normally do this, and I'm kind of chuckling right now because Pete Santos is he just commented on Facebook, and I'm like, dude, he just dug deep in and brought out his inner Underwood.
Is it our Facebook?
Yeah, Pete Santos said, "Let's not forget Sabrina Salas is also pro-abortion," and facts be facts, she stated that on air during Ray Gibson's show when Ray asked, "Where is their stance?" with Michael St. Nicholas saying he's pro-life and left it up to Sabrina to state her position.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, Sabrina's a candidate. She's a lieutenant governor candidate, and she has not written any policy on abortion. So I understand where he's coming from in trying to connect her to the pro-abortionists or the borders.
Yeah.
But at this moment in time, we're talking about the ones who have actually made policy, who are actually on what Troy said, on a crusade.
Yeah.
So let's not muddy the field right now.
Yeah. I do remember in my comment after Sabrina and Mike were on TV, I said, the way they acted on that interview was like they were on a blind date.
It was the last segment of the dating game.
Yeah.
Where they finally got together.
they didn't know anything at all about each other.
Like.
Yeah.
But it is a new candidacy, and I give kudos to anyone who decides to run for governor and lieutenant governor, because that's a high profile exposure type of candidacy.
And if you don't have a relatively thick hide, you may want to think twice about doing it. But if I were to stop and analyze what Repeat posted there in light of your comment, I'd have to say this: we do believe in free will. We do believe in freedom of thought. So I suppose it is possible for a person to think, I favor abortion. I don't want abortion to be criminalized in the jurisdiction where I live. And just keep that to, I suppose I should say, themselves as part of their government job. and not use their government job as a soapbox to trumpet their personal views all over the world, all over the island. And that's exactly what the governor and Jane Flores are doing. And it's a little bit more defendable with the governor than it is with Jane, because with the governor, you can vote against her if you don't like it. If you don't like her approach to abortion, you can vote against her. Jane is part of the faceless, was part of the faceless bureaucracy. I'm afraid her face is pretty well known right now, especially since she put her sermon for Christians on the Facebook of her government agency. So I think what we really need to do here is all of us need to let the governor know this is not satisfactory, Governor. You cannot have people in your cabinet that go out and give religious instruction, even if it were religious instruction that I agreed with 100%. You know, even if she posted part of the catechism on her Facebook and said, you need to pay attention to this and obey it, I would still be against it. Because I am a Christian, I'm a Catholic. I don't swallow this separation of church and state interpretation of the Bill of Rights, but I don't want to see our government getting involved in religion. That perhaps crosses the line to the establishment of religion when government officials start getting involved with religious affairs. It's a little off subject, but I can't resist either. Having the statue of Our Lady of Camelon in the Liberation Day parade is not a good idea. It's a secular occasion. It's not a religious occasion. If you are a Catholic, if you do honor the Virgin Mary, also known as Our Lady of Camelon, I want to come back to this right after. Well, I'm going to have to wait until after the Lulian Guerrero show, and I'll come back to this, Jose.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
This is a Fox News alert. Japan's Shinzo Abe is shot. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. The gunman arrested at the scene reportedly told police he wanted to kill former Prime Minister Abe, and he may have done just that. Officials say that Abe was airlifted to the hospital, not breathing, and that his heart had stopped.
Japan's current prime minister said, quote, I'm praying from my heart that Abe survives this ordeal. Video from the scene shows the former prime minister collapse on the street with several security guards running toward him.
Fox's Ashley Strohmeyer. NHK reports the 41-year-old man arrested for attempted murder was identified as a former member of the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. Abe's supporters say his legacy is bolstering Japan's defense capabilities, something that also made him enemies. President Biden plans to take executive action today to protect some access to abortion. People familiar say that he will issue orders to protect women's rights to federally approved abortion medicines and the right to cross state lines to get an abortion. The jobs report due out this morning may provide fresh clues about a possible recession.
Economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal estimate that U.S. employers added jobs at a rapid clip in June, but fewer than May, adding to signs of slowing U.S. economic growth. Analysts predict that the Labor Department's report will show a gain of 250,000 jobs, down from 390,000 in May. The unemployment rate is expected to hold steady at 3.6%, just a tick above the pre-pandemic low. However, the Federal Reserve predicts unemployment will rise over the next year or two as the central bank jacks up interest rates to try to tame hot inflation. Hillary Barsky, Fox News.
And America is listening to Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Our top story, a gunman tries to assassinate Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, shooting him during a campaign speech on Friday. Abe was rushed to the hospital not breathing and in heart failure. Police say the man arrested confessed to trying to kill him. Lots of parents are hesitating in getting their young children vaccinated against the coronavirus.
New numbers show nearly 300,000 children under the age of 5 have received their COVID vaccine in the 2 weeks since the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention gave the thumbs up for kids that young to get the shot. That's out of about 18 million children in that population group nationwide. White House officials had predicted younger children would be vaccinated at a slower rate than older Americans. A Kaiser Family Foundation survey conducted in April found that only 1 in 5 parents of children under the age of 5 said they would get their kid vaccinated right away once it was authorized. Tom Graham, Fox News.
A Florida man loses his pants while being chased by cops during an hours-long manhunt.
Cops say losing his pants didn't stop him. In fact, they say he stayed on the run for hours longer, completely in the nude. Police say 50-year-old Jesse Lamb of Gainesville was wanted for refusing to leave a home and had an active court bench warrant. They say he lost his pants after jumping off a dock and swimming away from pursuing officers. They finally nabbed him several hours later when he resurfaced on the other side of the river. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
And stocks closed higher yesterday, the S&P 500 posting its 4th straight gain, the longest streak since March. The Dow rose 346 points. Futures, though, turning negative, now down 93 points, and crude oil futures hovering around $102 a barrel. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Half a day. Patsy Gogri from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns a property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has the management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
Joyce Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-RDIO.
Let Choice Broadcasting bring your message to our masses. I love BK Chicken Fries. Chicken Fries Friday is back. Every Friday in July, visit any participating Burger King and say, I love BK Chicken Fries. And get a free 9-piece chicken fries with the purchase of a chicken fries combo meal. Perfect for dipping in our barbecue, honey mustard, ranch, zesty, and sweet and sour sauces. Top off your chicken fries with jalapeno bites and a refreshing Coca-Cola. Come and join our celebration every Friday at BK in Tumon Bay, Hagåtña at the Micronesia Mall, and the airport. BK your way.
Okay, another great halftime show here on Tall Tales. We've been spending a lot of time talking about abortion since the overturn of Roe versus Wade by Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Clinic, or whatever it's called. And it's good that we should, because it's probably the most important issue that's come up for discussion for years and years and years, and will have a long-term effect on the way we do things in the United States and here on the island of Guam. We have some big players. Our governor is very pro-abortion. Jane Flores, I've spent an awful lot of time showing you the talents of Jane Flores as among other things, as one who would instruct Christians in their religion, at the same time being the Westpac distributor of abortion advice. And we run a video of the Governor Lilian Guerrero, testifying at a public hearing several years ago on a bill that dealt with the care of a baby who survived an abortion. The abortion is botched. The baby is lying on the table alive. Doctors have something like a responsibility, of course, a Hippocratic oath, to if they could save a life, if they could render medical care to someone who needs medical care, they kind of got to do it. Unless Lilian Guerrero were calling the shots, and she would say, no, don't do it. And don't pass this bill that requires doctors to do it. It's a bad idea. It's going to cost too much. So that's the context here of Lou's testimony. This was before she was a senator testifying before a public hearing. So go ahead and play the video, Jose.
And members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Lilian Guerrero, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts and comments regarding Bill 195-32. I am aware that there is already federal legislation that addresses the issue at hand, thus making this legislation unnecessary. As I read the bill, what was glaring to me is that you are now walking into the realm of medical practice that is not your area of expertise. By passing this bill, you're saying to me that you are allowing a special interest group to say that you and they know better than the experts in obstetrics, family practice, pediatrics, neonatology, and medicine. By way of this bill, you have taken away the discretion, the responsibility, the acumen, and the judgment of that medical professional who is on the ground experiencing the circumstances and is more equipped to make the decisions. There are medical standards vetted through scientific research and medical knowledge that govern the practice of doctors and guide them in making their decisions. By way of this bill, you have said to our doctors, who are well respected and highly regarded in our community, we have no confidence in your ability. This bill not only diminishes the medical profession, but it further carries them to jail by criminalizing them if they refuse to abide by the mandate. By way of this bill, you have affirmed that doctor to have committed aggravated murder, and for that crime, we will put that doctor in jail for life. And by the way, they will rot in jail because you are not eligible for parole, work release, or educational programs outside the confines of prison. If this bill passes, we as a community, through your representation, will have mandated a government policy that ignores medical expertise and puts not only our doctors, but also our nurses, medical assistants, our physician assistants, and any health professional present at that event, and we're putting them in jail. These health professionals are treasures. They are valuable resources. We are working hard to recruit and retain them, and now we send them a message that they may end up in jail for practicing their profession. I know and truly believe, Senators, that this is not the route you want to travel. This bill is very anti-quality of life because it does not consider the expense that the family will incur as a result of mandating treatment that most likely will not result in a quality of life outcome for the infant. Instead, what this bill does is it will burden the family with enormous medical bills. On the conservative side, if care and treatment is given for a year, that family or the government, if the infant becomes a ward of the territory, will at a minimum pay $273,000 a year just on hospital room charges. This does not include pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and health professional time. So it will be $273,000 plus a year. This means taking away limited resources that could be used by others that may have a better chance of a quality of life. I know that some will say you cannot put a price tag on life and money should not be a factor. But the reality of the situation is the family, the government, does not have the human and economic resource to provide the care that is required to sustain a life that medical science will tell you is not living a quality of life. You struggle daily to meet the challenges of healthcare costs. We saw that with the hospital and health insurance debates that you guys made. And now this bill will further add on to the challenges when it does not have to. Lastly, I would like to make this comment. We all have a greater challenge in our island. The community is more concerned on how we can decrease our unemployment rate of 13.3%. We are very concerned on how we can work together to provide more jobs because our job growth has been stagnant over the last 5 years. We are very concerned about access to health care. We are very concerned that we are not screaming to the federal government to include us in the health insurance exchange so that we can have affordable health care to everyone. We are very concerned about how we can provide affordable housing to many first-time home owners. We are extremely concerned about the rising crimes we see today. People do not feel safe in their homes. Women are scared to go to the grocery stores alone because they fear that they could be robbed in the middle of the day. Employees do not feel safe in their work environment. Domestic violence is on the rise. Sexual assault of minors and rape cases are on the rise. You have in your campaigns pledged to work on these issues. You were all voted to help address these concerns. The issues you ran on were why you are my senators. Most of the voters did not vote for you based on whether you are pro-choice or pro-life. Please, let's get back on track to the more compelling issues at hand that have a greater impact to the quality of life of our people. I ask that when you are considering this bill to seriously consider the negative consequences of this piece of legislation that I have just enumerated. Please talk to as many people as you feel is necessary. Talk to the experts that can give you factual and objective information. I trust that you will do your due diligence, and I know that you will act in favor of the greater good of our community. And in so doing, you will arrive to the conclusion that this bill should not pass. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So there you have it. Baby is born, somehow survived an attempted abortion. What should the doctor do? I don't know what a doctor would do in situations like that, but I imagine there are several things that a doctor could do. What does Governor Lou Leon Guerrero want the doctor to do? nothing. Let the baby die. Because it would cost too much.
Now imagine replacing the baby with the elderly, with the disabled, or any other human that she deems as not worth saving the life of.
When you do the cost-benefit analysis, you take an 83-year-old guy, right, who has some kind of a disease, and you figure out, well, 83, how many years does he got to go? What good is he anyhow? He can't do a damn thing anyway.
We have other problems in the world.
Yeah, we've got other problems. Why should we waste money on him? He doesn't need any medical care. Let him die. Yeah. That's basically what it comes down to. Okay, I've got Kellis and Senator Chris Duenas who want to talk to me. So I suppose, given the populist nature of the show, I'm going to let Kellis go first, and then Chris Duenas. Afternoon, Kellis.
I'm blessed, Judge. How are you?
Doing great.
So when I was listening to this whole litany, so the first thing that she said that made me want to call when she says that if, you know, the doctor, the nurse, or et cetera, a whole litany of people that are there at this event. You know, I'm sitting there thinking, are we talking about a party? Yeah. You know, it's an event.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't say abortion. But then she went on this litany of other lists of things that will happen. And I'm saying, so she's worried about unemployment, so we need to employ abortionists. And then she's sitting there, the women that are being attacked, are we worried that this child that just, you know, survived an abortion is going to run out in the street and start attacking women as they're getting their groceries? You know, this everything that she was saying is like, what did that have to do about a child that is, you know, a child in the mother's womb, or a child just survived an abortion? Is she truly afraid that this baby is going to attack her with a knife? Or, you know what I'm saying?
An assault rifle, no doubt, Kellis.
An assault rifle. There you go. Because he survived his abortion. Please, this makes no sense. She's just brought up everything that you could possibly think of, world hunger, you know, the crime on the street and all this stuff, and she's blaming it on this innocent child.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I just wanted to say that. I mean, and like I said, the reason that made me call in the first place is that anyone that goes to this event, I mean, it's like, you know, do you have to RSVP for the event? I mean, is there a waiting list for the event? You know, it sounds like it's something pretty cool to go to. But if you go to it, you'll be in jail for the rest of your life.
I think you can get tickets online nowadays, Kellis.
Yes. So, and I know that the senator's online waiting, and you know, you need to talk to him. I just wanted to get in there, and I'm just worried about all these children that are surviving their abortions, that are going out and mugging and raping, you know, people.
You know, Kellis, if you were a boxer and I bought a ticket to one of your matches, I would complain that I never get my money's worth at your matches, because usually there's a knockout at the beginning of the second round.
Well, I try to get in there fast because I know you normally have a lot of callers, and I just want to get straight to the point, Judge.
You sure do. Thanks for calling, Kellis.
Okay, Judge. Bye.
So long. And then we have Senator Chris Duenas. Go for it, Chris.
Happy day, Your Honor, Honorable Marine, my favorite talk show host, and of course, one of your most distinguished positions as a senator. I always try to employ the Ray Gibson. Now I'm going to try to add to Kellis, who pretty much laid it out. But I wanted to make a couple other observations. I don't know if you had a chance to catch it yet, but I did the counter to Dubois.
I did,
and Miss James on the PBS coverage of the two positions on this issue of Roe Wade.
I did, Chris, and excuse me, but she's even more woke than I thought. She has bought into the, woman having an abortion or person having an abortion. She's bought into the whole sexual anarchy thing as well as the abortion thing, hasn't she?
Absolutely, and what one of the points I made, and what was interesting was what she wrote and what she talked about were different. It's kind of interesting because I want to make this point. What the governor is essentially talking about is infanticide.
Mm-hmm.
She's essentially talking about, even if the law, which I still believe is the law of the land, as opined by Deputy Attorney General Canto, even if that law, Senator, were still were what we believe to be on the books, and the Attorney General would do his ministerial duty and go and remove the injunction and let the lawmakers, which I emphasized in my PBS discussion, handle the situation and do the right thing. Even if that were to happen, Senator, the gestational period is still 13 weeks. I don't know of any viable, child other than the viability that should have to come to full term to survive at 13 weeks in what she's talking about. She's talking about basically killing almost a full-term baby on the table or close to it, which is just horrendous on its face. What was interesting was what the Bois came out with, and I thought it was probably a concessionary or conciliatory attempt when this decision was first made, is, well, what we really want is we want abortion to be safe, we want it to be sanitary, and we want it to be rare, going back to basically the Bill Clinton era of moderated abortion, policy. None of it works for me, of course, which I make clear in the interview. But what I'm saying is that they've been all over the place on this. But obviously, this is another area where the governor and the Bois, at least for a moment, were completely at odds on the position of abortion actually being accessible on demand. And so I think it brings us back to what my final and I think most important point of my observation on my interview with PBS is: put the Heartbeat Act on the floor. Have it debated and let the lawmakers have to be accountable. And candidates for senator, be warned, as I say in that interview, because I just believe this, Your Honor, and I know that this is your fundamental test. You can't not have a position on this issue. You're either for it or you're against it. And if you want to moderate in any way, it basically comes down to the Heartbeat Act or what the current law is in terms of accessibility. In final conclusion, I always find it interesting, and I know that, distraction is the king of what pro-abortionists want to do. It's got to be about everything except for what it really is, which is killing a baby. Just one point on affordable housing: no matter where you fall onto the Chamorro Land Trust or other programs that exist, the legislature and other entities have constantly, put forward to the governor and advanced infrastructure opportunities for subdivisions, other things, which she's completely rejected. Almost everything that she talked about and what we should be concentrating on is things she's not concentrating on, to include crime, affordable housing, everything else that she was standing there. And guess who was chairing that hearing, Senator? Senator Frank Uggan, who has now openly endorsed the Camacho Ara team.
Yeah. The hearing that we just ran the video on, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was there.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you that up and down, the governor has simply got it wrong. If Jose would push the button, wrong, just wrong completely on this whole issue.
One more time, Jose.
Wrong.
I mean, it just isn't. And one final thing I wanted to state, because I agree with you, Senator. I was very careful about saying that, look, I know what my belief system is. But the Attorney General, who's also wrong in the way he decided on not doing his ministerial duty on this issue, interjected himself as well as the Bois and others on this issue. But he had one thing that was right: the legislature, and this should be the process. It is the only thing he got right in everything that he wrote, as far as I'm concerned, in his quasi opinion on this issue, which is Put it to the legislature. Let's do it now. Some senators have said they want to make sure a referendum is there. I look forward to the amendment being proffered on the floor. I voted, Your Honor, for the bill to do pass, and that's not the quarterback pass, for the bill to pass 291 in the committee report. Put it on the floor. Let's debate it in this session.
Sounds good to me, Chris.
Thank you, Your Honor. And like I said, I'm unequivocal on this issue, and I am not particularly interjecting my belief, although I have it. I will accept the result.
Well, you know,
vote up, vote down.
You know, the other day, I have my own personal commitment here too. But the other day, I mentioned there are several different ways that I could get to the no abortion position as far as Roe versus Wade is concerned. First of all, federalism. We don't need some people back in Washington because they wear black robes deciding important questions for us. That's for the state governments.
Correct.
Yeah. The second thing that helps me get there is just the human ability to empathize with other human beings, regardless of what your religion or lack of religion is. We're just hardwired to feel bad when we see another human being suffering, especially when that other human being happens to be so small and defenseless. And then the third reason is sympathy. Once again, we're hardwired to feel bad. We feel sympathy, which lives in the same house as empathy. We feel sympathy when we see other human beings badly mistreated. So I don't even need to get to the religion part of it before I can personally say abortion is a bad thing.
Well, in closing, Your Honor, also, we're always told to know the science, right?
Yeah.
What starts and ends life?
It's the formation of that zygote in the uterus.
Is the heartbeat as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is going to sound a little jokingly, but it's not meant to be that way. But I've asked a friend of mine, for some reason has a weird sense of humor, what happened? But he's actually right. That his heart stopped beating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's truth, right?
Yeah.
The final note, the beginning note and the final note of life is the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, I mean, even if you were ill and wanted the Lord to take you home, if you were laying in your bed when you were breathing your last breath, asking God to bring you home because that's where you want to go, your body itself will defy that all until the time that the heartbeat stops for the last time.
True enough.
Everything else in your body will try to survive because that's how precious life is. Your body is designed to live. It was born to live, and then when it was time to die, it was the time to die was when your heartbeat said, no more.
True enough, Dr. Duenas. Thank you for the consultation. We got to go to Wrigley Field. Good talking to you, Chris.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarte Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Get ready to save up and chow down with Pacific Points. Now you can redeem Pacific Points for UnoGo wallet credits and enjoy huge savings on food delivery. Order from over 80 restaurants and have it delivered straight to your door. Continue earning points when you fuel up at Shell, shop at Foodies, purchase ITNE prepaid load, and pay your monthly ITNE bill. Then get ready to claim your rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Okay, so here we are at Wrigley Field in Chicago. That means I've got just 2 more innings here to wrap up Tall Tales for another week. And before we went to the Governor Leon Guerrero abortion extravaganza video, I made a few comments about the Liberation Day parade and using or making a display of the Our Lady of Camelon statue in that parade. And I have to tell you that I don't think it's a good idea. And I've got several reasons that I don't think it's a good idea. First of all, well, let's look at a little historical background here. I think everybody realizes that on the 21st of July, 1944, the United States began the reconquest of Guam, or the reoccupation of Guam, or the liberation of Guam, depending on how close you are to Robert Underwood. The island, the artillery shells hit the island, and Marines landed at Assen and Adelup and stormed the beaches. You know, I always thought it was a miracle that Marines could come ashore at Assen and climb that cliff up towards Emmets Hill. It seems to be almost a sheer cliff. On the 21st of July, when you know it was hotter than the hinges of hell, and you got Japanese soldiers up there shooting at you. That just seems like almost an impossibility. But they were able to do it, and they were able to liberate the island. And everyone who was on the island at that time, as far as I know, was extremely happy that the Americans took the island back from the Japanese. And beginning the next year, a celebration was held. I've seen a lot of those celebrations myself. I've seen a lot of the pictures. And in the beginning, the celebrations concentrated on kind of the military theme. Mock-ups of jeeps and tanks and soldiers and the kinds of things that it took. And it was kind of a celebration of the military coming back to Guam. That was pretty much the focus of it. Of course, you had Liberation Day Queen. The girl who was able to sell the most tickets got to be the Liberation Day Queen. So that went on for a long time, well into the time that I arrived here, well into the 60s, that it was pretty much a recognition of what the military had done for the island. And over time, it has gradually changed its context to now it's a celebration of the Chamorro people who survived the Japanese occupation. And I think that's good. You know, there's certainly enough credit to go around for everybody involved. So that's where we are now. But everything in the Liberation Day parade that we've ever had always goes back to the liberation of the island in July of 1944. Now we have this historical relic called Our Lady of Camelon. Camelon is the Chamorro way of saying the Spanish word Cameron, which is a Spanish word for, guess what? Barracks. Yeah. So I suppose there's a little commonality there. Where do soldiers live? In the dorm, right? No, in the barracks. So it's a historical, and there's a legend as to how that statue came to the shores of Guam. It relates to boats and crabs, and it's a pretty interesting story. It's a legend. It's been around for a long, long time. And the Our Lady of Cameron, of course, is a symbolic of the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ. Our cathedral, Dulce Nombre de Maria, Spanish translated English, sweet name of Mary. So you can understand that people think a lot of this relic, the statue of the Virgin Mary, so much that it's placed in a place of honor inside the Dulce Nombre of Maria Cathedral. So if you want to see the statue of Our Lady of Cameron, you got to go down to the cathedral and see it. one exception throughout the year, and that is the procession on December 8th, where there is a procession that begins and ends at the cathedral, and the statue is carried around by the faithful. Now, we want to change that long-lasting tradition, and we want to put the statue of Our Lady of Cameron in a parade that relates back to the liberation of the island. I just don't, first of all, I don't see the relevance at all. I don't see any relevance whatsoever of that. Second, if I were to look at it if I put my sacred glasses on, looked at it in a religious context, I would think, is this a sort of a disrespect to a relic that is a representation of the Virgin Mary, parading it around in a parade? And, people from the mainland have asked me what the Liberation Day parade is like. And my answer is, it's a 2-mile-long fiesta. For 2 miles, you got people drinking beer and barbecuing and cooking and just having a great old time. Sometimes they even pay attention to the parade.
A party was going on, and a parade happened to occur.
Just happened to come at the same time, yeah. Yeah, so how does this work with a relic that is so highly esteemed by the faithful here on the island? And my answer is, it doesn't work at all. The, scarcity is something that comes into play when you think about how important something is or how valuable something is. This is a terrible parallel, but I'm going to use it anyhow, with apologies beforehand. I'm just using this as an analogy, not a characterization. But there was a time when I'd take the grandchildren to Disneyland every summer, and I don't know who enjoyed it more, me or me watching them enjoy it or them enjoying it themselves. But one of the attractions at Disneyland was an audience with Mickey Mouse. So in order to do that, you had to stand in line, and then there was a fairly long wait. And then a small number of people, maybe a half dozen people, were ushered into a room and seated. They waited for a little while, and then the door would open, and Mickey Mouse would come out. And he would talk to the kids and me. And it really seemed, that they really were able to make the kids think, wow, this is really, really important. Now, suppose Mickey Mouse had been standing out in the midway shaking hands with kids. Same effect? Not even close. And the same effect was the statue of Our Lady of Cameron. How about if you put it in the mall at Micronesia Mall? Then people could come up and see it every time they go. No, it just isn't the way to treat a historical relic that is valued so much by the faithful. So I haven't put this on the card. I haven't really expounded on it, but I had the opportunity now, and I just couldn't resist coming out and saying that. Jose, I think you might have some feelings on this too, if you want to.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about it before the program started, and there's been some time to think about it, because I did receive the letter that was put out to the clergy announcing that the statue of Our Lady will be going around the island. December 8th is something that I celebrate also. It's a solemn event. It is an event that, for Catholics, we understand the significance of it, and nothing to say to denigrate her significance, Mother Mary, but it doesn't. To me, it feels like it's too. I hate to use this as what I feel, but it's exactly how it's been festering inside of me. It feels like she's going to be used as a prop. on a prop in a parade that's going to be highly politicized this year, especially since we haven't had a parade in 2 years now.
That's right.
And especially since it's an election year. And whether or not that's the intention, that's what's going to be perceived. And I would much rather not have my faith, quote unquote, paraded in that manner to try to, I don't know, try to justify something, try to make something look good. It just doesn't feel right to me.
How about glorify?
There you go. There you go. And I encourage people not to. This is by no means a criticism on our faith and Mother Mary and how people look at this relic, this statue, as a representation of Mother Mary, but more so with the fact of let's keep this separation that the government always talks about, that people talk about, in the sense that we're not promoting something in a very highly secular celebration. I mean, you talked about this partying that's going on. It doesn't start on 21st. It starts the night before.
Right.
And if anybody's ever had a lot for the parade route, they know that there's a lot of jubileeing going on. And to think that it's all of a sudden going to turn solemn and respectful just for that moment, it could, but I don't want to risk that.
Good points, Jose. Well, I suspect that tailgaters also have thoughts on the subject, and it's 888-TALK, 888-8255. We'd be glad to entertain your thoughts on that matter.
You know, back when I was a little kid in the 80s, Marvel put out a comic book of Pope John Paul II's visit to New York City, and he had this huge, I think it was Yankee Stadium. He was in the stadium, and the reporter, I think it was from New York Times, was writing this story. It was almost kind of like the writer of the story was a reporter at the time, and he was relaying his thoughts and what happened during this rally. And he was kind of irritated that all these kids were there hooping and hollering and having a great time, and it didn't seem like a faithful Catholic or religious event. But as soon as Pope John Paul II came out there and started speaking, the kids got silent, and they really looked like they were paying attention, right? And some people can say, yeah, if a religious figure, somebody who's prominent, comes out, maybe the crowds will tone down. But that event was specifically scheduled to be a solemn event or an event for Pope John Paul II. I do not think that July 21st Liberation Day Parade is appropriate for our Mother Mary.
There you have it, folks. That's the Tall Tales line on the statue of Our Lady of Cameron being used in the Liberation Day Parade. I got to go to Churchill Downs now. We're going to be heading down the home stretch.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Half a day. Patsy Gogri from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns a property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has a management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
So here we are, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky. That means I got 6 furlongs more and I crossed the finish line to end another day, another episode of Tall Tales. Next item on the card is Leaving versus Babies. I think before I plunge into that, I'll take this phone call that's coming in since we're getting so close to the finish line. Who I got here, Jose? So let's start a little bit on this item here while I'm waiting for Jose to get the person on the line. Talking about Levin's opinion. Levin answers half the question when he says the question is whether or not the. Let me hang on here. We got Jose. We're supposed to talk about the 68th anniversary of
Bank Pacific.
Bank Pacific.
That was yesterday.
Was it?
Yes, that was yesterday. But this morning? Yes, the 7th, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Wow, we blew that one.
Congratulations.
Good afternoon, Phil.
Good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Phil. Yourself?
Hanging in there. When are all the religious leaders, Galatian, the Christian, Jehovah's Witness, Bayview Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, the Catholic, the Christians, when are all the leaders going to get together and let's start our own, let's vote for the pro-life group, man? You know what I mean?
That's a good idea, Phil.
No, I'm waiting for them, someone to get all the leaders. Isn't religion about life?
Yeah, I think that's a fine idea, Phil.
And I just want to say, man, I've been waiting because every time I listen to your show, I'm waiting for James Forrest, Robert Underwood, and all these people to call and debate with you when you question their, whatever they write on the paper.
I think you're going to have a long wait on that one, Phil.
I know. That's why I was like, man, I keep waiting. Like, please, someone call. Because when I listen to the Weather Channel, Underwood and all those guys, James Forrest, they're all talking at the K57. It's like, they never call hotels.
Well, maybe, Phil, that's because I cheat. I don't have any kid gloves here at the station. I don't put on kid gloves. I don't have any softballs. I don't pitch callers, softballs. I just go where the truth takes me. And people like Robert and Jane perhaps wouldn't feel comfortable in that environment.
I see. And here I am hoping that, I'll get to hear a good debate on that. But I like your station. It's very well educated.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for enlightening us.
Okay, well, thanks for calling, Phil, and that's a great idea. I hope someone will pick up that idea and run with it. It's good. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's see. I got another caller here. Another caller. Another person on the phone. Another Joe. It's another Joe. Go for it, another Joe.
All right, goodbye. So there are.
Are you going to ask me if I can hear you?
Speaking. I said there are several groups.
Another Joe.
Who have been.
Excuse me, another Joe. Are you going to ask me if I can hear you?
Sure. Could you hear me?
No. Go ahead, another Joe.
I'm going to miss you guys for, 4 days? 3 days? 4 days?
Yeah.
Until Tuesday? All right. So there are several groups. Of course, the Catholic Pro-Life Committee, and but they in the same page with the Archdiocese of Ganya and the Archbishop, and then there's the anti-abortion pro-life anti-abortion group, more affiliated with the Republican Party. With so some of the leaders would be like Sharon O'Malley with the Catholic Pro-Life Committee, Shelley Gibson with the pro-life anti-abortion group. Then there's new groups being formed. There was, I think they called the Pro-Life Coalition, I think, with a lady named Angela and a few others. And so some of the individuals within these groups have been interacting because they meet at the rallies, pro-life rallies. And they've had some collaborations, especially with the public hearings at for the Guam Heartbeat Act of 2020. So, yeah, I'm not sure if you all were suggesting inviting them onto your show, or if you just wanted to know when they were meeting.
You got to really do something to be an in-studio guest on Tall Tales. But what I'm suggesting, or what Phil was suggesting, is why don't all of the churches kind of get together and start advocating for life, for anti-abortion. I think that's a great idea, sort of an all-comers ecumenical council to fight abortion. I think that's a great idea, and that's what I'm saying. I hope it happens.
There was actually an advertisement I shared with listing all the groups that were in support of the Guam Heartbeat Act of 2022, and the thing about that was the chair of the committee was for having the public hearing for the Guam Heartbeat Act 2022 is Speaker Teresa Rahi, and so she was really nice to have the public hearings. But the thing is, the word was they wanted to see more support in the form of email letters to the committee when they report out the committee. That's what Minority Leader Duenas was talking about, that he signed off on the report. But I think some Dems are hesitating because, we see a lot of support against the Heartbeat Act. So, but he's sort of good. So then it shouldn't have a problem in the vote, right? So there's no fear. That means that the senators who are against the bill are going to vote against it, and the senators who are supporting the bill are going to vote for it. So it should be no problem. So I'm in agreement with Minority Leader Duenas there, and send it to the session floor and have them vote on it. But I don't know if I answered any of your concerns or questions. The advertisement, I'm sure the senators are aware of it.
It's not a question. It's precatory. Just something I'd like to see. Another Joe. So another Joe. I got Bonnie, Suba, and Jack waiting in the green room. So
thanks for your time.
Good talking to you. Yeah. So Bonnie, Suba, and then straight from the drive-through at McDonald's, none other than another Jack. Good afternoon, Bonnie. Good afternoon, Bonnie.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
No.
Hi. No. So, I hope I'm on.
You're on. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Anyway, you mentioned something earlier concerning the Mental Health Alliance program or something of that nature in Guam. And I don't know if they're just building the program, but, I'm going to speak on experience out here, how they tried to do that with the mental health issue in Portland. And so I was working alongside with the police, and they wanted to instill the mental health social workers to respond to the, non-violent, non-police calls. And they would have their own program, and they send the social worker out. The dispatcher will, go through the calls. But what happened is that when they started it, they found out that when the social worker was called, the social worker couldn't approach these people in crisis because they were violent or they were highly under the influence. And so the social workers felt that they were, it was a volatile situation and they didn't want to be injured, so they ended up still calling the police. Then from that avenue, they had a social worker ride with the police officer and respond, like an 8-hour shift, but only to those mental health calls. But the same thing occurred. The social worker will, go approach the person or the crisis, but there again, it got out of hand, and the police had to take over the case. So it just doesn't seem that unless they study it, together. First of all, social workers don't have the training that the police have, and the police don't have all of the training that the social worker has. And I'm not saying that either one of them is bad or wrong. I'm just saying it has to be a deeper study into it. And from what I'm seeing today, is most of these people with the mental health issues, because they did away with the old word is asylums, but everybody said that was cruel and unusual punishment, is what they're doing is these mental health people go in for walk-in clinics. They collect their medicine, and they're back out on the street. And they roam because they're homeless. And so when they get into crisis, they're in public's view and all the sidewalks and public places, and the business owners calls for security or calls for the social worker, but then they don't want to respond because of the issue at hand, which is mostly violent. So that's a issue that I'm hoping that Guam would look further, deeper into how to resolve it. But then again, what is the status about how many people are mentally ill that are roaming the streets and that are a problem as compared to out here? Because the Portland program didn't work out. It ended in 2020, right before COVID. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the input on that, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Appreciate it very much. And it's a long-distance call for you, too, right?
Yeah, that's fine. But I just wanted to add one more thing. You're talking about all these topics you talked about today. It seems like I'm watching a movie, or I'm looking in a mirror, because it all seems to be following what Jose said, that whatever the mainland does, Guam is picking it up.
Yeah.
Like the abortion, and today the president announced that he's going to, do funding or pass a bill or an executive order to assist women for abortions. So now it's going to become a federal thing and an executive order. So it just seems.
Hey, Bonnie, I got to go, Bonnie. I got.
All right. Okay.
Thanks for calling. I'm not going to show you Joe Biden. I'm going to show you this to show you that you don't have to Jones over the weekend. Pick up Pacific Island Times and look at this article in here, the leaked decision overruling the insular cases. Very good reading. So that'll be your weekend substitute for Tall Tales.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
This is a Fox News alert. Japan is in shock. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. A man shot and gravely injured former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe this morning. Officials say Abe was airlifted to a hospital in grave condition, not breathing, and that his heart had stopped.
Abe, now a member of the House of Representatives in Japan, was delivering a campaign speech in the western city of Nara when he collapsed. Eyewitnesses reported hearing two gunshot-like sounds.
Fox's Shannon Bream, Fox Business Network's Susan Lee has covered Asian news for more than a decade.
This is pretty shocking for the country of Japan, which doesn't see many deaths from shooting. It's probably 10 a year for a country to have 127 million. So I would say that across Asia right now, a man that probably is the longest standing, 9 years in office, the fact that he's been shot on a campaign rally for a country that is built on an ideology of pacifism, which is peace.
And NHK is reporting that a man arrested is a former member of Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force and that he confessed to trying to kill Abe. A federal judge slaps Derek Chauvin with a heavy prison sentence.
Chauvin will serve roughly 20 years in federal custody as his 22-plus-year state term runs. Still, George Floyd's brother, Philonise, said he saw an emotional void in Chauvin.
He showed no empathy. He showed no compassion.
The Floyd family still must watch 3 other former officers who did not stop Chauvin from kneeling on George Floyd's neck stand trial. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
We'll get the latest measure of the economy this morning with the June jobs reports. And economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal expect hiring slowed in May, but companies still added 250,000 jobs last month. America's listening to Fox News.
Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts ad-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Trey Gowdy, the Fox News Rundown, Will Kane, Brian Gilligan.